The alien queen sat alone in her enormous throne room, her many eyes staring blankly at the glowing crystals that lined the walls. They shimmered with soft light, but no beauty of her palace could reach her heart anymore. Years ago, her only daughter had been taken. A rival alien clan had stormed their world in a sudden attack, and in the chaos, disappeared. The queen had sent her bravest warriors across the stars, had offered rewards beyond imagination, and had even sent spies into enemy territories. But no one returned with her daughter. No one brought news. The silence had become unbearable. Every day wept quietly in her private chambers, feeling the emptiness gnaw at her heart. The crystal floors reflected her tears, making her sorrow seem endless. Her advisors and guards moved around her carefully, never daring to speak of. They all knew that the queen's grief was a wound that no time or medicine could heal, and yet, despite her sorrow, remained a figure of power and command. Her subjects obeyed her with loyalty and fear, for even in grief, the alien queen radiated authority. But behind the mask of power, her heart was broken. She remembered the day she first held in her arms a small, delicate creature with bright eyes that mirrored its own. She remembered teaching her daughter how to walk among the glowing forests, how to read the stars, how to understand the language of their people. And then, in a single night of fire and chaos, all of it was gone. The thought of lost forever made the queen feel hollow. Nights were the worst. When the palace quieted and only the moons illuminated the crystal towers, she cried silently, wondering if she would ever see her daughter again. The alien court watched her sorrow, unsure what to do. They whispered among themselves, some suggesting another war to retrieve the child, others saying the girl was long gone. But no one dared approach with hope. Everyone had learned the same bitter lesson. There was no comfort for the queen's grief. No one except a human. Humans were small, fragile in ways the alien species did not respect. But there was one human in court who refused to accept that nothing could be done. His name was Jonah. He had arrived as part of an exchange delegation, a small envoy from a human world far from their own galaxy. To most aliens, he seemed weak. He had no wings, no claws, no advanced energy weapons. But he had something different, courage, a heart that refused to accept despair as the final answer. Jonah had watched the queen for weeks silently, seeing her sorrow every day. He noticed how she would sometimes sit in the garden, staring at the stars, her massive form curled around herself in loneliness. He saw how she refused to eat, how she barely slept, how she had stopped laughing entirely, and he knew that he could not stand by while she suffered. One evening, when the moons of her planet cast pale silver light across the spires, Jonah approached the queen. His hands were steady, his small frame tense, but his voice carried certainty. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing low, "I can find your daughter." Smeny's eyes widened in disbelief. "You," she asked, "a human? You can barely survive in this atmosphere without protection. You cannot survive the dangers of the void, let alone enemy worlds. How could you possibly find my child?" Jonah did not shrink. "I may be human," he said softly, "but I will not fail you. I will go wherever she is. I will bring her back." For a moment was silent. The weight of hope pressed against her chest. She had not allowed herself to hope in years. To imagine that someone, especially a human, might succeed where her strongest warriors had failed felt almost impossible. Yet when she looked at Jonah, she saw determination. She saw bravery that did not depend on size or strength, but on the heart. Her eyes glistened with tears. "If you fail," she said, her voice trembling, "then our people will know your kind cannot protect the innocent. If you succeed, perhaps my grief will finally end." Jonah nodded, clutching a small crystal the queen handed him. It glowed softly, pulsing with faint energy. "This belonged to her," she said. "It will guide you, bring her back to me." Jonah's heart pounded, but he did not show fear. "I will not fail," he whispered. And with that promise he turned and prepared for a journey no human had ever dared to take, into the endless stars, into unknown dangers, driven only by courage, hope, and the promise of a mother's love reunited with her child. Jonah stood on the balcony of the queen's palace, staring at the vast galaxy stretched before him. The stars sparkled like tiny fires, distant and cold, yet somehow full of possibility. The crystal the queen had given him pulsed faintly in his hand, a quiet heartbeat guiding him toward. He had no map, no fleet, no weapons like the aliens possessed. What he had was courage, ingenuity, and a stubborn refusal to fail. The Council of Elders had whispered warnings when they heard of his plan. "A human cannot survive in the void," one had said. "The child is likely gone," another insisted. "You will only disgrace the queen by attempting this." Jonah had listened but did not waver. The elders could not see what he could, the human heart's stubborn ability to fight when everything else seemed lost. He returned to his small quarters, studying the crystal. Its energy signature was faint, flickering like a candle in the night. He traced lines in the holographic star map, plotting his route. Every calculation felt impossible, every jump through hyperspace fraught with danger. But he refused to let fear control him. Every step, every plan was guided by one thought: had a mother who had not given up on her, and he would not either. Before leaving, Jonah knelt before the queen. Its immense presence loomed over him, her eyes filled with both hope and fear. "Do you truly believe you can find her?" she asked softly. "I have to," Jonah said firmly. "I cannot promise I will not face danger. I cannot promise I will not fail, but I promise I will try with everything I have." The queen's tears glistened. "If you succeed, my world will remember you. If you fail, you will die alone in the stars." She handed him a small device shaped like a teardrop of crystal. "This belongs to, it will lead you to her. Guard it well. Its light is faint, but it is all you have to follow." Jonah nodded, placing it carefully in a pouch around his neck. The weight of responsibility pressed on him, heavier than any armor he had ever worn. Yet at the same time he felt a strange warmth in his chest. Courage did not mean the absence of fear. It meant acting even while afraid. And Jonah had never felt more alive. The human ship was small, barely bigger than Jonah himself. It lacked the strength or shields of alien vessels, but it was fast, nimble, and most importantly, his. As he entered the cockpit, Jonah took a deep breath, thinking of the queen, thinking of. The engines hummed softly, a steady reminder that the journey had begun. The first jumps through hyperspace were disorienting. Stars stretched and bent around him, colors he had never seen before painting the void in strange patterns. The ship trembled, testing its limits, and Jonah gritted his teeth. He adjusted every control, following the crystal's faint pulse. It was weak, almost imperceptible, but it was enough. It told him he was on the right path. Days passed, though Jonah hardly noticed the time. Sleep came in short bursts, if at all, and meals were forgotten. The galaxy outside his windows was beautiful but unforgiving. Comets streaked past, and distant suns flared bright enough to blind. Jonah endured every challenge, reminding himself of why he had started. Every moment brought him closer to ending the queen's endless grief. During one particularly tense moment, Jonah's sensors picked up a faint energy field. It pulsed in rhythm with the crystal, growing stronger as he drew near. His heart leapt. This had to be it. This had to be, but as he approached the planet, alarms blared in the ship. Automated defense drones, ancient and relentless, scanned the skies. Jonah's palms sweated. He could turn back, retreat to safety, but he did not. He would not let fear stop him when so much was at stake. "Hold steady," he whispered to himself, hands gripping the controls. The small ship darted through asteroid fields and laser fire, every move calculated, every risk deliberate. The human mind was his greatest weapon. Where alien technology expected strength, Jonah used cunning. Where alien soldiers expected obedience, Jonah used unpredictability. He fought not with claws or energy shields, but with ingenuity, speed, and unshakable determination. Finally, as the planet's surface grew clear on the viewport, the crystal pulsed brightly. A signal, faint but unmistakable, guided him to a structure far below. It was a prison, old and fortified, its walls humming with alien energy. Jonah's jaw tightened. His heart pounded with fear and hope intertwined. This was it, was here. And Jonah, a small human in a galaxy of giants, would risk everything to bring her home. Jonah's small human ship hovered above the desolate planet, its engines vibrating softly in the thin atmosphere. Below lay jagged mountains and endless stretches of red stone by ancient battles. In the center of the wasteland, a tall structure hummed with alien energy, glowing faintly in the darkness. Jonah's heart pounded. The crystal around his neck pulsed faster, guiding him too. She was here, alive but trapped. He adjusted the ship's controls, descending carefully. Every second mattered. The planet was alive with danger. Automated drones patrolled the skies, their sensors scanning for intruders. The walls of prison shimmered with energy shields strong enough to crush a fleet of alien ships. Jonah swallowed hard. He did not have weapons like theirs, only his human mind and courage. But he also had determination, a stubborn flame that refused to die. As he landed on a rocky ledge near the prison, Jonah studied the barriers. The structure was designed to keep the strongest alien warriors out, and yet here he was, a fragile human preparing to breach it. He touched the crystal around his neck. Its glow pulsed gently, as if reminding him that hope was still alive. Taking a deep breath, he activated his hacking tools. Every wire, every circuit, every tiny piece of alien technology became a puzzle he had to solve. Failure was not an option. Inside the prison sat alone. Her eyes, wide with fear and exhaustion, scanned the empty corridors. Her long hair was tangled and her body weak from years of confinement. She had almost stopped hopping until the crystal around her neck pulsed. Someone was near. Her heart fluttered. Could it really be? Could anyone have come for her? Jonah breached the outer layer of the shield with a clever sequence of pulses and codes. Sparks flew as the barrier flickered. Drones swarmed toward him, but he dodged and rolled, moving faster than any enemy expected. The human mind was unpredictable, and the aliens had never faced anything like it. Jonah pressed forward, ignoring the burning in his muscles and the fear in his chest. Every step was for, every movement a promise to the Queen. When he finally reached the inner chamber, he froze for a moment. There she was, his small charge, fragile but alive. Eyes widened as she saw him, a human standing before her. Who are you?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "I'm here to bring you home," Jonah said softly. "I won't let anything stop me." He knelt beside her, carefully studying the lock mechanism holding her in place. It was ancient, powered by alien energy he barely understood, but he could figure it out. He worked quickly, hands steady despite the sweat and adrenaline. Sparks flew, barriers flickered, and every second clung to hope. Outside, alarms rang. The prison's automated defenses activated fully. Energy beams shot through the sky, warning any intruders that escape would not be easy. Jonah ignored them. He focused entirely on the lock, on its trembling form, and on the thought of the Queen waiting at home. Courage is not the absence of fear, he reminded himself. It is acting despite fear. Finally, the last barrier fell. Cage dissolved into glowing particles. She stumbled, weak and exhausted, and Jonah caught her in his arms. "I've got you," he said, voice calm and strong. "We're going home." Her small hands gripped him, eyes glistening with tears she had not shed in years. I thought no one would come," she whispered. Jonah smiled, sweat streaking his dirt-smeared face. "Humans, we fight for what matters," he said. "You matter." The drones outside advanced relentlessly, but Jonah did not panic. He carried to the ship, using every ounce of human ingenuity and speed to evade capture. Lasers streaked past, lighting the sky like dangerous fireworks. Jonah calculated each movement, each turn, each jump with precision. They were fragile, small against the enemies and the harsh planet, but his mind was sharp and his heart was unyielding. As Jonah lifted off, the prison exploded behind them. Flames and debris filled the sky, a vivid testament to the daring rescue. Gasped, clutching him tightly. "We made it," she whispered. "Yes," Jonah said, eyes fixed on the stars ahead. "We made it." In that moment, a bond formed between human and alien child. A bond stronger than fear, stronger than danger. He had crossed a galaxy, faced unimaginable peril, and now, against all odds, they were alive. Hope, fragile but real, began to bloom in his heart. And Jonah, a small human in a galaxy of giants, knew that the hardest part was yet to come, returning to the Queen and witnessing her joy. But he would face it. Because humans, he thought, fight not for glory or strength, but for love and hope, and sometimes that was the greatest power in the universe. The ship trembled as Jonah guided it through the storm of debris and energy blasts from the destroyed prison below. Flames from the explosion lit the sky in bright oranges and reds, reflecting in its wide, fearful eyes. She clung to him tightly, her small frame trembling not from cold but from relief, disbelief, and lingering fear. Jonah's heart ached for her, but he did not falter. He had promised the Queen he would bring her daughter home, and he would not fail now. "Hold on," he shouted as a wave of debris struck the ship, shaking it violently. The engines roared under the strain, metal groaning and sparks flying. Jonah's hands were steady, each movement precise, each calculation a fight against impossible odds. Every second mattered. Every misstep could mean death, not just for him, but for he had to be faster, smarter, braver. His voice trembled. Will they catch us? Jonah shook his head. No one can stop us. Not here, not now. Just trust me. His words were steady, but inside, his human heart pounded like a drum. Fear was a constant companion, but courage pushed it aside. Humans, he had learned, were fragile in body but limitless in spirit. He had no alien weapons, no massive shields. All he had was his mind, his determination, and the burning promise to a mother waiting across the stars. As the ship climbed higher, approaching the upper atmosphere, a squadron of enemy drones appeared on the horizon. They moved with deadly precision, anticipating the escape. Jonah's hands danced over the controls. He knew they could not outrun firepower like that with speed alone. He had to think differently, to use human creativity against mechanical perfection. He twisted the ship sharply, spiraling around asteroids, diving into shadowed valleys, then rising again, unpredictable, unstoppable. The drones fired, energy beams cutting through the sky, but Jonah's timing was perfect. He led them into the debris field from the explosion, where smoke and fire made sensors useless. The drones collided one by one, exploding in showers of sparks. Gasped, clutching his arm. "You're amazing," she whispered. Jonah smiled briefly, not taking his eyes off the controls. "No," he said quietly. "Humans are stubborn, we don't give up." He adjusted the course, heading toward the small jump gate he had plotted earlier. It would take them closer to the Queen's world, though the path was dangerous and narrow. The universe seemed determined to test every ounce of his courage. Suddenly, an energy beam struck the ship's hull. Sparks rained down inside the cockpit, the hull groaning under the pressure. Jonah swore under his breath but refused to panic. "We're not done yet," he muttered. The controls responded sluggishly, but he pressed on, weaving the ship between jagged rock spires. His mind raced faster than the ship ever could. He analyzed angles, energy outputs, and escape routes all at once. Exhausted but trying to be brave, whispered, I can't believe you came for me. Why would a human risk everything?" Jonah's jaw tightened. "Because it's the right thing to do. Every life matters. You mattered." He glanced at her, her small face illuminated by the emergency lights, and felt an unexpected surge of protectiveness. They were more than rescuer and rescued now. They were allies, friends, a tiny human, and a lost princess fighting together against impossible odds. Finally, they reached the jump gate. Jonah set coordinates for the Queen's world, and the engines hummed with renewed energy. The enemy drones were far behind, trapped in the chaotic storm Jonah had created. He glanced at who nodded, exhausted but smiling faintly. "We'll make it," he said softly, though every instinct screamed that danger could appear again at any moment. The jump was terrifying. Light stretched, space twisted, and for a brief moment Jonah felt weightless, suspended between worlds. But when the other side appeared, the familiar glowing spires of the Queen's palace, relief washed over him like a tide. They were almost home. Let out a small laugh, tears running down her cheeks. I can't believe it. I'm going home." Jonah smiled, though his own heart ached from exhaustion. "You are, and no one, nothing can stop that now." Above them, the stars sparkled with promise. Below, the palace waited, silent but hopeful. And in the midst of the galaxy's dangers, one small human had proven that courage, determination, and heart could overcome even the deadliest odds. The human ship glided through the last stretch of space, approaching the glowing towers of the Queen's palace. For Jonah, every star, every pulse of light from the distant moons, felt like a heartbeat counting down to the moment would finally be safe. The crystal around her neck pulsed brighter now, as if sensing that the journey's end was near. Jonah glanced at who leaned against him, pale and exhausted but alive. Her eyes sparkled with a mixture of hope and disbelief. "Do you think she'll be happy to see me?" she asked quietly. Jonah gave her a reassuring smile. "Your mother will be overjoyed. She's been waiting for this day longer than you can imagine." He adjusted the ship's course, careful as ever, knowing that even now danger could appear. But the closer they got to the palace, the more he felt a sense of calm wash over him. They were almost home. Below, the palace glimmered in the soft light of twin moons. The crystal spires reflected colors of silver, blue, and faint violet, creating a magical, almost dreamlike scene. The courtyards were empty at first, but then figures began to emerge, guards, advisors, and finally the Queen herself stood at the highest terrace, her massive form silhouetted against the moons. Her many eyes were wide, her body trembling. She had felt the pulse of hope, faint but insistent, and now she saw the tiny ship descending with her daughter inside. Jonah guided the craft to land smoothly in the courtyard. The engines hummed down and he stepped out, carefully carrying in his arms. She clutched the crystal tightly, and her small form seemed lighter now, as if the weight of years of fear was finally lifting. The Queen's eyes widened, tears spilling freely. She whispered, voice trembling with a mixture of awe, relief, and overwhelming love. Weak arms reached out and bent low, enveloping her in a massive embrace. The Queen's tears fell onto her daughter's hair, soaking her shoulders, and felt warmth, safety, and love all at once. "Mother," she whispered, her voice shaky, I'm back." The Queen's many eyes glimmered with emotion. She lifted slightly, staring into her daughter's face. "You're here, my child, my heart, you're alive," she said, voice breaking. The years of grief poured out in a single moment, filling the courtyard with emotion that none could ignore. Even the guards and council members watched in awe. The immense Queen, feared across galaxies, wept openly, her sorrow replaced with joy. Jonah stepped back quietly, letting the reunion happen. He could see the bond between mother and daughter, a bond that had endured distance, fear, and uncertainty. Buried her face against her mother's chest, tears streaming freely, whispering every word of love she had kept locked away for so long. Held her tightly, whispering promises and apologies, murmuring gratitude to the universe for this miracle. For a moment the courtyard felt suspended in time. The palace that had once been cold and lonely was alive with emotion. The light from the crystal spires reflected the mother's joy, the daughter's relief, and the quiet presence of the human who had made it all possible. Jonah felt a lump in his throat. He had not done this for praise or recognition. He had done it because it was right. And now, seeing the Queen's tears, he understood the power of courage and determination. The Queen finally looked toward Jonah, her eyes shining with gratitude and awe. "Human," she said, her voice steady but trembling, "you have done what none of our warriors could. You have brought my daughter home. You have restored hope where there was none. You are extraordinary." Jonah bowed his head, feeling the weight of her words. I only did what I had to. Every life matters, no matter who they are," he said softly. He had no grand speech, no alien eloquence, just truth and the knowledge that he had given a mother her child again. Now Saif looked at Jonah with wide, grateful eyes. "Thank you for saving me," she said, her voice still weak but full of sincerity. Jonah nodded, feeling warmth in his chest. Humanity, he realized, could be fragile, but it could also shine brighter than the stars when it mattered most. As the Queen held her daughter close, the stars above the palace seemed to shimmer brighter. Hope, courage, and love filled the courtyard, and for the first time in years felt her heart whole. Jonah stood silently, watching, knowing that he had become a part of something far greater than himself, a story of bravery that would be remembered for generations across the galaxy. The courtyard was quiet, filled with the soft glow of alien crystal lights. Clung to her mother, still trembling from the years of fear and confinement. The Queen held her daughter tightly, but slowly she pulled back, her many eyes focusing on Jonah. The small human stood humbly, shoulders squared despite exhaustion and sweat streaking his face. He had crossed galaxies, faced unimaginable dangers, and returned the Queen's daughter safely. Now all that remained was acknowledgement, and the weight of the moment hung heavy in the air. His voice broke the silence. "This human," she said, her eyes blazing with emotion, "has accomplished what our greatest warriors could not. He has brought my child home. He has faced dangers that would have destroyed entire fleets of our strongest soldiers and emerged victorious." Her voice rose, echoing across the palace spires. "His courage is unmatched, his heart is unbreakable, and his spirit has reminded us all of what true bravery means." Gasps filled the courtyard. The alien council, the guards, and even distant citizens watching from above stared in awe. Humans were considered weak, fragile, and insignificant in the galaxy. They were untested in battles where entire civilizations clashed. Yet here was Jonah, a small human, standing tall amidst beings far larger, far stronger, and far more advanced. He had risked everything for a child he barely knew. That was a power that no weapon could measure. Still in her mother's arms, looked at Jonah with wide eyes. I owe you everything," she whispered. Her voice was soft, trembling, but filled with truth. Jonah smiled faintly, shaking his head. "No," he said, "I didn't do this for thanks. I did it because it was right, because she deserved to be free. Every life matters, and hers mattered." approached Jonah, her immense presence both awe-inspiring and gentle. She lowered herself slightly, a gesture of respect and gratitude. "Human," she said, voice steady but filled with tears, "you are welcome among us forever. You have shown that courage does not depend on size, species, or strength. You have reminded this galaxy that heart matters above all else." She placed a glowing insignia upon his chest, its energy humming softly. The symbol marked Jonah not as a visitor, but as a hero, recognized by one of the most powerful beings in the universe. Jonah's hands shook slightly as he touched the insignia. He had not come seeking honor or recognition, yet here it was, a gift beyond any treasure or medal he could imagine. He looked at, then back at the Queen. I just wanted to help," he said softly. "I never imagined this." The Queen's many eyes glimmered with tears. "You have done more than help," she said. "You have restored faith in courage, in compassion, and in the impossible. You have reminded all of us that sometimes the smallest being can change the fate of worlds." The courtyard erupted in applause and cheers. Aliens of every shape and size bowed their heads or stepped forward in acknowledgement of Jonah's bravery. For the first time, humans were not seen as weak outsiders. They were seen as beings capable of acts that transcended technology, power, and tradition. Jonah's courage had broken prejudice, rewritten expectations, and proven that hope could come in the smallest form. Hugged Jonah tightly. "You saved my life," she whispered again, "and you've given my mother back to me." Her words made his chest tighten. He realized that heroism was not about glory, but about love, loyalty, and selfless action. In that moment, he understood why humans, though small and fragile, could shine brighter than the largest stars. The Queen watched them, smiling through tears. She had faced grief that seemed endless, yet now her daughter was safe and a human had proven that hope, courage, and determination could overcome the impossible. Stepped back, letting the mother and daughter share their moment while she addressed the court. "Let it be known," she declared, "that a human has reminded us that bravery is not measured by size or weaponry, but by heart. May this day inspire all who hear it across every world and every star." Jonah, exhausted but proud, watched the reunion between mother and daughter. The palace, once cold and silent, now hummed with joy, relief, and hope. He had not just returned a child. He had returned faith to a queen, to a people, and perhaps to the galaxy itself. The palace courtyard glowed softly under the twin moons, crystal spires reflecting light like scattered diamonds across the alien world. Laughed quietly, a sound so rare and precious that it seemed to make the air itself shimmer. She played among the gardens with the other children of the court, her small hands brushing over the glowing plants and fountains, free at last. The Queen watched from the terrace, her massive form still awe-inspiring, yet softened by joy. Her daughter was alive, safe, and whole again. For the first time in years, her heart felt complete. Jonah stood nearby, leaning against the rail of the courtyard, watching the scene unfold. He had faced dangers that would have shattered most beings. Hostile planets, relentless drones, and energy barriers built to crush even the strongest warriors. But he had succeeded. And yet, as he looked at the laughter of, the relief in his eyes, and the admiration of the court, he realized that the greatest reward was not glory or recognition, but the simple, profound knowledge that he had restored hope. The Queen descended to the courtyard, her many eyes glimmering like stars. She approached Jonah slowly, each step heavy with emotion. "You came from across the stars," she said, voice trembling, "facing dangers that would have destroyed our greatest fleets. You risked your life, your very existence, to return my daughter to me. For that, I owe you more than words can express." Jonah shook his head, a small, humble smile forming. "I did what any human would do," he said softly. "I fought for what mattered. Every life deserves a chance, and she deserved to be free." His eyes glimmered with tears. "No," she said firmly, placing a massive hand gently on his shoulder. "You have reminded us that courage is not measured in size or power, but in heart. Humans, your kind has shown us a strength we have long forgotten. You are not only welcome here, you are a part of this world, a part of this family." Ran to Jonah, throwing her arms around his legs. "I can never forget what you did for me," she whispered. "You gave me back my life and my mother. You're my hero." Jonah crouched down, hugging her gently. He had never expected such words from a child he barely knew, but the sincerity in her voice made every danger, every fear, every hardship worth it. The court and the citizens gathered, witnessing the moment. Aliens of every shape and size, once distant and wary of humans, now bowed, cheered, and offered words of respect. Jonah, a small human, had crossed the impossible and reminded them all of a simple truth. Heart, bravery, and hope could surpass even the most advanced technology or greatest strength. As the stars shone above, looked at her daughter, then back at Jonah. "Your courage has given us something far greater than safety," she said softly. "You have given us hope. You have reminded us that even in darkness, light can come from the smallest source, and that every being, no matter how small, can change the fate of worlds." Jonah's chest swelled with a quiet pride. He had not sought fame, he had not sought power. All he had sought was to do what was right. And now, standing in a world alive with love, joy, and hope, he understood the truth of the human spirit. It was fragile, yes, but unyielding in the face of impossible odds. The palace no longer felt empty. Laughter, joy, and warmth filled every corridor. Stayed close to her mother, holding her hand, smiling up at Jonah when she could, a living reminder of the journey they had endured. The mighty alien queen no longer carried sorrow in her heart. Her daughter was safe, her people inspired, and a small human had reminded them all of what truly mattered. Jonah watched the twin moons rise higher in the sky. The stars seemed to shine brighter, as if acknowledging his courage. He had crossed galaxies, faced death, and returned hope to a broken heart. And in doing so, he had left a mark on the universe that would never fade, a testament to humanity's indomitable spirit. As night fell and the lights of the palace reflected across the courtyard, turned to Jonah one last time. "Your name will be remembered across generations, human," she said. "Not as a visitor, not as a curiosity, but as a hero. You have changed the course of our lives forever." Jonah smiled quietly, feeling a deep peace. For once, the stars above did not feel cold or distant. They felt alive, like the pulse of hope itself. He had done the impossible, not with weapons or technology, but with courage, heart, and the determination to fight for what was right. And in that moment, the galaxy understood something that no battle or war could teach. Sometimes, the smallest beings, the most fragile hearts, and humans, in their stubborn, unyielding way, could change the universe.